This is Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters.
Welcome to Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light. This is show number 2, and this is we're calling it our Sound Up, Sound Off. Hopefully you joined us for the very first show of the year, 001, which was on Tuesday. And we had some big topics that we discussed, and we got some great responses from you. We got some email responses, we got some audiograms, and to be honest, we're kind of pioneering new technology here. And we have a bunch of people right now live with us in the audience, and they will be joining us during the show. Going forward, we are going to do it that way for our reaction show. And going forward, we are going to be able to hear your audiograms. We're just having some tech issues. That's how it goes when, we're starting something brand new. Right?
This is show number 2. It's experiment number 1. We're breaking new ground. We're doing this with a bunch of listeners, a bunch of folks alongside us. And this is how we want to do these, the structure for Sound Up. The first episode of the week will raise an issue, a topic, a question, talk about that amongst ourselves and with guests, and leave you with a question to answer for the second episode of the week, like this, where you can either email us your thoughts, connect@sounduppod.com, or you can sign in and join us and talk to us while we're recording. This first week, our question has to do with stadium tours. As the year's tours are being announced, we have noticed stadium tours used to be a very rare and exclusive thing. The super elite megastars played stadiums, or crazy big all-star packages played stadiums. But this year we're seeing artists like Pink or Zach Bryan, or people that you might not think of as that altitude of star, who are playing stadium venues for their tour. We talked about that with Jem Oswald from Variety to try to understand it a little bit better on the last show. Put the question out to you and have some reactions and responses, and we'll kick it around with the folks who have joined us right here today.
I got to say, as I said, we got some audio messages and we got emails as well. And I was surprised. And as Alan's saying, we're going to get into reading some of these back to you a bit later on. We're going to cover some news and some other topics that are current. But I was surprised. I expected people to just go, stadium shows suck, end of story. But that was not the case.
Yeah. You want me to read an email or two here?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, we still got stuff to do.
Show that we're doing this, we'll get into it. We're going to go through some news and some other stuff, but just to say, email from our friend Mitch says, glad to have you guys both back regularly. Regarding stadium concerts, they are baffling to me. In Phoenix, our largest non-stadium venue is Talking Stick Resort Amphitheater, which is larger than the arenas, seats around 20,000. Artists that played there a year or two ago, like Stevie Nicks or Journey, then play at Chase Field with a capacity of 48,000, and the cheapest nosebleed tickets are more expensive than when they played the amphitheater. What's crazy is that they then sell out Chase Field. I know the co-headliner and supporting acts are key to the stadium show success. I'd rather have a decent seat without breaking the bank. So he's noting the same thing. Guys that came through a year or two ago and played basically the arena, even, a little amped up for the arena. The next time they're coming through, they're going to the stadium more than twice the size, and they're selling it out. This is exactly the question that we're raising. That just says we're onto a valid thing, right?
Right.
Something did change in these last few years. So, as we've said, do you like it? Do you put up with it? Is it a necessary evil? Will you not go because it's a stadium where you would go if it's an arena? Before we get into it, quick, we really didn't. Mark, where do you come down on this?
Listen, I think stadium shows suck. Plain and simple. It's so impersonal, and is a heavy weight on the performer to try and connect with 40 or 50 or 60 or 70,000 people. So having said that, and that's just a little part of it, I'm not even going to get into the parking lot, getting in, getting out, forgetting all of that. How about just the music experience of the stadium? There are very few people who can make it feel intimate. There's a couple. Bruce Springsteen did it for me. Amazingly, Ed Sheeran in a stadium show did it for me. But no. It's not a great place to see music.
I'll slightly take the other side on this. There's the headache of, this is an urban planning issue that I would rather my son, who's into this, get into. When we have to get out to MetLife Stadium, an hour from the city, deal with the parking lot, deal with the train that runs on whatever schedule. Of course, that's a pain. But let me say, like, it's a show at Citi Field and I can get there on the subway and it's not that big a deal, then that can go away. And for places that have more accessible stadiums, that's less of an issue. But I will say, when a stadium show, when it is a performer who can do it, obviously when it is a Bruce or when it is a Taylor Swift show, there is something that is gained from the power of the communal experience of 60,000 people dialed into that one person leading on the stage that I find really, really powerful. Now, you got to be a certain sort of, not anybody can do that. And some of these guys who are now being thrown into that, where that's the requirement, that's going to be a tough challenge. But when you can do it and if it can work, I think there is something that can be really special. What am I going to say? This is what defines the world right now. But those Taylor shows at this point require the scale of a stadium, not just because of the demand. I mean, this is somebody who was doing 6 nights at a stadium and could have done 20 nights at that same stadium, but also feeling what that room feels like and feeling the parents and kids there together and feeling the intensity of the experience. The scale of it matters. The magnitude matters. And at this moment, sure, I'd love to see her in a smaller, it'd be fun to see her in what now passes for a smaller room. But I think what that's about is the stadium experience right now.
But I think that what you're saying kind of underscores the concept here, which is not everybody is Taylor or Bruce. And, if you increase the number of stadium shows, you will also increase the number of shitty stadium shows.
Oh, and you increase the number of club shows and you'll increase the number of shitty club shows. I mean, that doesn't work. But I think more to the point, I think what we were talking about with Jem, that there was this sense that you worked your way up, that you went clubs to theaters, to the bigger theaters, to the arenas, to multiple nights at the arena. And you learned how to be that scale of a performer. And the ones who made it through that, Darwinist survival of the fittest and made it to the top where they could fill a stadium were ready to do it.
Yeah.
What does it mean to take somebody who hasn't learned those lessons and put them out there?
Right.
Some are going to rise to that. Some are going to show their greatness, but some of them, are just not going to be, they're not going to be there yet.
And as we've said, it becomes a question of economics simply. That's all ultimately I think that it is. You're right. Taylor needs that kind of venue and she can support that kind of venue.
And listen, if audience members here, and this is what we want to hear from you, if the answer is, well, it isn't my first choice, but I'll go, if you're going to go, if everybody's still going to show up and 50,000 people show up instead of 20,000, that's why they're going to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's, as we're talking with Jem, it is sort of the nature of things, the way that the way the music business is now and how artists support themselves. And so you need more money from the venues and you need more merch in order to support that.
And as we've talked about, you've read a lot about, and we've talked a lot about before, as the margins get trickier, it's more expensive. And we've heard a lot of how difficult it is for smaller level acts to even go out and tour because the costs have gone up to such a degree that you might it takes very little to end up losing money instead of making money on a tour. The more you can separate that and clear more certainly clear a take that's worth it, even at that altitude, the more you're going to do that.
It is interesting that, and we will talk with the people who are part of our audience to get their take on it. But as you say, if people are going to show up, then these things are going to continue to happen. And that goes on both sides. I had a conversation with John Mellencamp a while ago. He won't do that. He won't play a stadium ever. In fact, he's got problem enough playing the Madison Square Garden level shows because he doesn't want to do that kind of show. He doesn't want to do the hits show. He wants to be able to do the kind of artistic, creative, thoughtful, deep cut-ish kind of show. And the artists some artists may potentially back away from it as well. Not many.
Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, Music News.
You want to get into a couple of news stories we want to hit?
Well, we're talking stadiums, and the other big thing that is happening in concert world is festivals. And certainly on Monday, we're going to go a little deeper into festivals because there's so many that are being announced.
So the Coachella lineup was announced. We're just going to take a quick look at that. And the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, the Jazz Fest lineup was just announced right before we started taping here. But sort of the most interesting story, I think, that came out of the Coachella news is the announcement of a No Doubt reunion.
Right.
And it's presented Coachella has the poster of day 1, day 2, day 3. And then at the bottom it says, and No Doubt. So what is that? Are they doing sets every day? Are they how they're going to be, what they're actually going to be doing at the festival is a question. But in the meantime, are we excited about No Doubt getting back together?
For the purposes of Coachella, maybe specifically, that's their home turf. That's a great venue for them to play. Is it a great idea for Gwen Stefani? Does it feel right for Gwen Stefani, from The Voice and from Hey Baby, does that feel right for her to be out in front of No Doubt, a band that I love and I know a lot of people love? It feels a bit odd. I'm excited to see them, and I'm curious. I love the band. They don't have a big fat catalog. They just don't. She's got some hits, and that's probably what they'll flesh out the set with. So yeah,
look, they got some great songs. They were a great band. Yeah. I've got to be convinced that I can look at them and see Gwen, the SoCal ska singer, right, and not
the
Gwen Stefani with Blake Shelton, and and I feel like not for her. Look, will they sell tickets? They can sell tickets if they're going to go tour, though. It'll be fine. Maybe not for her wallet.
Right.
If she's going to do this, I would almost love to see them just show up in a club and play as No Doubt rather than make a big announcement.
You mean like a surprise, like a pop-up?
Yeah, something. But low key it would play it so much better than if it's going to be a big spectacle. I mean, if they want to do it, fine, so be it.
And the other thing is, I have to imagine this is going to set up, another era for however long it is for No Doubt. Here's a live date. That at some point we're going to start to hear about the tour. Hope it's not a stadium tour.
The thing you said that was interesting is, for them to do it in Southern California, mm-hmm. and it's one way to look at this Coachella lineup in general that's interesting is it is a very California lineup. The other reunion thing that's happening is the Sublime with Brad Noel's son reunion happening, which is some definitive California. Lana Del Rey headlining, Tyler the Creator headlining. It feels like a very Cali skewed focus for the Coachella bill.
It is. I went to the first 6 years of Coachella, and it is not your daddy's Coachella anymore. It's a very, very different event. Aside from the idea that it sells out before a lineup is announced, it's really about the event, as opposed to, it used to be, remember, there was a Tool reunion, and there were all of these really special moments. Like a No Doubt reunion is in the spirit, I think, of what they used to do. There used to be one band a year that would get together for the show.
So just to go quick, day 1, and remember, it's 2 weekends. This is both weekends. Day 1, Lana Del Rey headlining, Peso Pluma, Lil Uzi Vert, Justice, Deftones.
Tell me this, Alan.
Some more California.
My sense as I looked over this, and we can certainly go through the big font, the medium, and the small fonts. For me, the small font bands are the ones that I'm interested in the most.
That's fair. Day 2, Tyler the Creator headlining. Blur, that's sort of in the spirit of what you're talking about.
Is he a headliner?
Depends on your audience. For the right audience, sure.
Yeah.
Blur, Ice Spice, Gesaffelstein, Sublime, the Sublime reunion. And day 3, Doja Cat headlining. That's the one. I'm not sure Doja Cat's at a headlining place yet. With J Balvin, who I could argue J Balvin is a better headliner than Doja Cat is. Jhené Aiko, Krungbin, who we love, Lil Yachty, DJ Snake. So it's a very young skewed club and hip hop, a little more Latin skewed with Peso Pluma and J Balvin.
As well it should be, especially in that
the
neighborhood.
Top as well it should be. So that's sort of what we're looking at for that. In general, I'm underwhelmed by festival. We'll talk about this next week. I'm kind of underwhelmed by festival lineups so far that we've seen overall. But that was the one. But I do also want to mention that we got the Jazz Fest lineup out of New Orleans. We knew that the Stones were going to play. That had been announced. that they're doing the slot sort of in between. There's the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then they pick up again, do the next weekend. The Stones are playing the Thursday in between, leading into the second weekend. But just to run names for the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Fest: Foo Fighters, Chris Stapleton, Neil Young and Crazy Horse, The Killers, Anderson .Paak, Hozier, John Batiste, Queen Latifah, Vampire Weekend, Greta Van Fleet, Heart, mind you, Trombone Shorty, Bonnie Raitt, Earth, Wind and Fire, A Celebration of Jimmy Buffett, and hundreds more.
It's stunning how many.
It's pretty.
It's really unbelievable how many artists.
It's enormous. There's so many stages. There's so many different things that are happening. But hard to have a lot of fight with that as a lineup. And Foo Fighters, Stapleton, Neil Young, Killers, even without putting the Stones in there, is bringing a pretty, top line rock and roll festival out there. The greatest things at Jazz Fest, of course, are the gospel tent all day and all night, the local and regional artists that are there. But at least for those of us of a certain age, that's a pretty healthy headliner package.
It is. And they certainly have stretched out over the years in terms of what this festival is about. The fact that the Stones are playing is pretty incredible. And what venue is that?
It's all out at the fairgrounds. out at the fields.
Yeah. So that's what I was wondering, did they, the Stones are playing, so we're going to move that to the stadium.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. It's all, everything's on the ground. Yeah. So we'll be hearing about and from that. And then last thing I want to bring up, and then we'll break and then get into our topic. We were talking about the explosion of music biopics that just within the last couple of weeks, we got news of a Michael Jackson biopic, a Springsteen biopic, Linda Ronstadt, played by Selena Gomez. This was all just within a couple of days. And I think just yesterday came the story that Universal Pictures has optioned the rights to Anthony Kiedis's story.
There's a story that's been waiting to be told.
Based on his book Scar Tissue, produced by Kiedis, Guy Oseary, and Brian Grazer. Wow. Through Imagine Entertainment, Ron Howard's partner and a major producer. That's the thing that puts a
credibility,
more serious stamp on this. Yeah. So Anthony Kiedis biopic, you going?
Not tops on my list. As we've said, he does have a fascinating story. His childhood was freaking nuts.
I almost think, I don't know if you can sell it, but I almost think the movie is just
it's that
before the Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
It's interesting that nobody's done a big Chili Peppers documentary, and that he's written the book, Flea's written the book, but really the movie there in some ways is his crazy Hollywood running the streets upbringing. So I don't know, but it's interesting to note, as we said, this swing to biopics. Like the focus has been so much on documentaries in recent years. We have been hearing, there's sort of about like bad documentaries are feeling kind of played out, feeling like some people overspent, so they're a little gun shy. But interestingly, very quickly, that vacuum is being filled up by all of these dramatizations of music stories. And
I guess along with that, what is attached to it is that we're going to have to start to deal with, oh man, that person he does not look like that. It doesn't sound like that artist, or, that lip syncing thing. To see, Bob Marley's voice coming out of this guy is awful. We're going to, all of those biopic issues that we've had.
It's always the challenge. We know it can be done. There are good ones.
Yeah.
There are good ones. There are bad ones. But there's going to be apparently a lot of them. So we'll see which direction these take off. Anthony Kiedis, on the one hand, feels like a stretch in terms of kind of star power. On the other hand, again, there is actually more of a story than for some of these others that are just, they're a big star.
It comes
and the guy is a big star. Let's not,
The script and casting is really what it's going to be.
Well, with any and all of these, as you said, there's inherent challenges.
Yeah.
Either you do a really good imitation of that, and that can be distracting, or you don't do an imitation, and that can be distracting. There's no formula for like what's the best way.
Or you do the biopic without any music.
Because that has worked so successfully.
That's worked really well. So that's just some of the stuff that's going on. This is a brand new podcast. This is our second show. We, for the first time, I don't know anyone who's doing this. We have a live audience. We are excited to be able to get to talk to you. We have a bunch of people who are wired in right now to this recording and are with us live in real time. And we will be talking with the members of our audience after we take a fast break. So stay right where you are. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light. It's coming back right after this.
This is Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters.
Welcome back. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light. And this is our second show. We started a brand new podcast, and we are happy that a number of people have responded to us online, sent us messages, audiograms, etc. We have a bunch who are actually a live audience with us right now, and we are all part of a grand experiment. We're trying some new software, but we want to be able to connect with you the way that we used to. So that is what we are headed towards. Going forward, connect at sounduppod.com to be a part of the show. That is the place you can reach out. You can email us there. You can leave an audiogram there. And we also will extend invites, as we did to the people who have joined us and are going to be talking with us in just a second.
So just before we go to the folks who are with us, just want to encourage you to be reaching out to us the other days. Our friend Jean emailed saying, stadium tours, not interested unless it's Live Aid. Sound is bad. You're usually far, so thanks, but no thanks. And from our friend Janet in Detroit, Janet says, I'm not a fan of stadium shows at all. Seating in a ballpark does not lend itself to a great concert experience, and I feel so far removed from the bands. Watching the whole show on screens isn't ideal. However, when there's someone I want to see bad enough, I'll suck it up and deal with it. I was on the opposite end of the field when I saw Pink, and it was still one of the best shows I saw last year. Hoping that pit tickets for Foo Fighters and Green Day this summer will help me enjoy the stadium experience a whole lot more if I can actually see the bands and be down closer to the action.
Yeah, well. Hey, I just was thinking, there's this woman, Madonna, who is on tour. Why is she not doing stadiums?
Interesting question. She's done them in the past.
She sure has. It's weird.
Been to Madonna stadium shows, right? So, okay. All right. Want to see who's out there?
Let us see who we got.
We have Shannon coming in to join us right now.
Shannon.
Thank you so much. This is awesome first, by the way. And honestly, I don't really have anything original to state that anyone hasn't already said. I'm not a fan of the stadium shows. I will go if that's my only option in my area and I'm not able to travel elsewhere. I've seen my share from Bruce to, I saw the Chili Peppers, speaking of the Chili Peppers, oh my gosh, I'm losing track of time. I think it was 2 summers ago at MetLife. And they were one, and I've been lifelong fans of theirs since I was in a teen. But I really had a hard time connecting. It just felt like they were far away, and watching them on a screen, it's really not fun. I've done the pit, I've done close up, and I prefer it. But I'm the same. I'd rather not miss it, but I would prefer something more intimate, honestly.
Any that were better? I mean, did seeing Bruce, for instance, show something different that you can do with that space, or just none of it works for you?
Bruce, I feel like he's kind of so old school and traditional that he didn't really do anything unique. But he's got the charisma, he does. And we were in the upper deck. We were the first row of the upper deck, so I had a little vertigo going on too. But even with that, it was I enjoyed it. Also, I'd say too, if it was a band that I was kind of a casual fan of, I would really look at it as more a night out and a fun thing. But if it was one of my top bands, I definitely want something, more intimate and more of a connection there,
Shannon, what was the last stadium show? Chili Peppers? Was that the last one?
The last stadium show I saw was Bruce.
Bruce. Okay.
Yeah.
So is that the nosebleed seats that you had?
First row.
So how much did you pay for those tickets?
A couple hundred. I think it was about 200-ish. Yeah.
So that's face value for nosebleed.
Yeah. It was high.
Yeah. So I feel like that's the other issue. People who went to see Bruce, the stadium show is one thing, but I went to see him on this last tour, and he played Madison Square Garden. And there's the people who are down front, and the same thing goes for a stadium show. The people who are down front, they're paying thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm sorry. Bruce pissed me off. I went into that show with a chip on my shoulder. But generally, in terms of stadium shows, my God, why? That's not fair.
Why is you know what I'm going to say? Why is because
whatever the market will allow. I know you're a capitalist.
The demand is there. What is it you would like? What would you like to see? What's the version you'd like to see? You want to be able to see your favorite band in the smallest room for the cheapest price every time, and everybody should be able to do that. How is that?
Yes.
How does that work? How does that work for anybody?
Why doesn't the internet fix that?
Well, you can stream it. That's what the internet would tell you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And as we said,
I just wanted to make that point.
You can make it's a huge question of like, who the hell is spending that money? Who has it? Who can spend it? Who can keep going back and putting that money down? But somebody obviously does. Yeah. So, all right. Who else we got here?
We got Tom in Wisconsin.
Hey guys, glad to be talking to you. Stadium shows. Nah, I don't want to do them anymore. I think the last one I saw was U2 on their 360 tour at Soldier Field, and I was in literally the very last row. It was still a great experience, but it's just not. It's not as good. Even just going to an arena show or something like that is way better.
But did you feel with U2? That's a great example of a stadium show because they really, technologically speaking, do everything they can to make it more intimate.
Yeah. I mean, and again, so
more intimate or more intimate or so big that it's.
Yes, I mean both for sure with those guys. But Bono, that they had that incredible catwalk out from the main stage out into the venue with video above it, and it's still a stadium.
I mean, in my mind, it's got to be like it's got to be a band of that stature to really, I don't know, make it an event, whatever. But
what about Journey, Def Leppard, and Steve Miller? How about that? Is that a good stadium show?
No.
Are there any that you would do, or are you just done?
I would do Bruce Springsteen, only because I've never seen him before. And so that's probably more playing into my decision. Like, I've seen U2 now. I've seen the Rolling Stones. I've seen those big bands from my fandom or whatever, right? That I would pay money to see them in a stadium or an arena or whatever. But I've seen them before. I'm not going to go through the stadium experience. For Bruce, because I've never seen him before.
Not worth the headache.
I almost did last time he came around, but I couldn't justify it, So
there it is. That's the live or die, right? Yeah. Couldn't justify it. If enough people say couldn't justify it, then you can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, then it's, and I'll say this. I mean, I couldn't justify it if it was an arena either, right? I mean, if it's $1,000 for tickets and it's in a stadium or a club or an arena, I'm probably not going to go. I'll do festivals. Yeah. I mean, you guys were talking about festivals. I'll do that way before I'll do, a stadium tour. But kind of to your points, that's more about the medium and small font bands, So
yeah, it also is a very different experience if you wind up in a festival. If you're going to go VIP, so you're going to pay a couple of grand. But at least you got a few days.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
See ya.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Look at that. It's our friend Laura.
Laura.
Gentlemen. So I will say when it comes to the stadium issue, to me, there's a different kind of energy in all of those, which everybody's already said, right? And I'll use the Foo Fighters as an example. I haven't seen them in like a SoFi type stadium. But I mean, I went from seeing them on a college campus to seeing them at the Canyon Club for the first post, COVID reopening,
right,
to their Rock Hall induction, to a bunch of other things. And I will say in that particular regard, all of those things, because of the particular circumstances surrounding them, were all very special and unique. And the energy was kind of off the charts for all of them. But I haven't seen U2 in a small, intimate club. Let's make that happen soon. But, seeing them at the Rose Bowl with almost 80,000 people or whatever there was to, the Sphere, which is a very different experience.
Have you been to the Sphere?
I have, and that was quite phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's a different energy, and being at the 300 level to see everything kind of all in versus being on the floor would be a very different experience in and of itself. I will say with regard to Gwen, I don't know if I can segue to this, but
Sure you can.
she is like the most Orange County thing ever, right? She went from being like cool ska punk girl to marrying a conservative guy named Blake. So
Yeah.
There's no going back. There's no going back.
I don't know. And I'm actually more excited to see, and this is what kind of a dork I am, right? I'm actually more excited to see Dream Car at Curl World than I am for a No Doubt reunion. I've seen her perform and she was great. Yeah. I walked out liking her more than I liked her walking in, but I'm really excited to see them. And so I sort of feel like I'll have seen it all in some form or fashion. So I'm really okay. But I do have one last thing when going back to stadiums. So I was giving this some thought. Actually, it was sort of these two kind of like the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup thing, right? Where I was thinking about No Doubt and Coachella, and go like, well, and then I had this idea like maybe they should have a stage for like parents and grandparents, right? And so then they can get like the best. And then that made me think of going back to stadium concerts, right? Maybe this is, I don't know. Again, I'm wrong more than I'm right. But I wonder if there isn't a little bit of nostalgia, because 90s and aughts, right? So, those people might be taking their kids, they're, older folks they're taking their grandkids to see Taylor, to see Dua, to see Olivia Rodrigo, see, whomever, The Weeknd, whoever's playing the stadium. And they're kind of thinking, if I'm paying for this, I remember how cool this was. Maybe I want back in. If they take their kids and that energy and they're getting excited, and then they see their favorite acts are still touring and stuff. Maybe maybe COVID reignited something in people of like, I'm not gonna not do the thing. I'm not gonna miss out again.
That was very much what Jem was talking about in our previous show in terms of just watching the concert industry in general, that everybody
euphoria
ran out of the gates as soon as they could, and that we're still that has sustained at least to this point. How long it can, how long and at what price that can maintain, I think is what everybody's waiting to see.
And I will say a SoCal lineup of Thundercat Beck and Red Hot Chili Peppers at SoFi was pretty flippin' amazing. So when you get that hometown thing, right, there's nothing like that, though. That was pretty stellar.
Laura, thank you. I want to jump to everybody who is with us now in the room can sort of see each other. And if you are sort of listening after the fact, know that going forward, you can join us here on this podcast. Connect at sounduppod.com. More details there. Tyler, what's on your mind?
So stadium shows for me, well, I like to separate stadium shows from ballpark shows because I think it's a very different thing. I think the stadium shows would be like your football stadiums or like maybe a soccer stadium or Wembley.
Oh, you mean like 100,000 as opposed to 40,000?
Right. Whether if you're talking about Fenway, Wrigley, especially old ballparks that are like 40,000 is different than these new football stadiums that are 90,000.
I think the vibe in both are very different. So I went back in 97, I was living in California, and I went and saw the Rolling Stones at Dodger Stadium. And then fast forward to 2008, I saw Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I was working on I was a volunteer crew for that Super Bowl halftime show in 2008 at Glendale, at really the Cardinal Stadium.
That's its own thing, but yes.
Yeah, and both shows, so the Tom Petty one, I was right on the field, of course, because I was helping move in the carts to put the stage together and then take them off the field after the show was done. And I was right up front, right at the stage, and it was a really cool vibe. But looking around, when you see the people way up in the rafters, in the heaven up there, you're like, they can't really see the show all that well. And they're looking at video screens the whole time. So for me, I'd rather just stay home and watch it on my TV and save a couple $100 because stadium shows usually always price me out. The ballpark shows, those might be a little bit cheaper, but I don't think by a whole lot. So I get priced out of those too. Yeah. And honestly, for my money, I'd rather go see a show at a ballpark because I think the vibe is just a lot more fun. Usually the ballpark ones are during the summer because you don't want to be out in an open ballpark unless the ballpark's closed in. You know, especially if you're going to like Fenway or Wrigley.
That's interesting. It's interesting that you separate between, a football stadium, a newer football stadium, and a ballpark.
But promoters don't. I mean, that's a distinction of, are you playing, a sort of baseball scale, like that kind of a stadium thing. I think of like these could be off. I feel like Billy Joel was playing baseball stadiums. Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks together were playing football stadiums.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a legitimate distinction. So, and maybe this is just the baseball fan in me that's speaking. I feel like there's a different, those are historic landmark, Fenway Park. If it's a big deal, you're playing Fenway Park. If it's a big deal to you. I saw Bruce at Fenway and it was like, we're at Fenway. Like that's a thing. Where if you're playing some new mega huge, massive thing, that's not necessarily an emotional play in the same way. So I think that's fair, Tyler.
Tyler, I thank you, man. Thanks for checking in with us and being a guinea pig today. Really, really appreciate you hanging in with us. Well, let's jump to Dina.
Hey. It's interesting. Tyler hit on a few things that I said in my audio recording to you guys, which is it's sometimes you just want to be in the room when it's happening, right? And you don't care if you're not close. So like the first time I saw Bruce Springsteen, I saw him at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. And I was literally on the other side of the field at the top. And he was on a different word by the time the sound got to me. I didn't care, right? I just wanted to be in the room. And the thing is that it can be impersonal. But like the example that I gave is Mammoth WVH. I saw him for the second time at Detroit Stadium with Sunita. Mm-hmm. He was amazing. And he was brandy new. Like he was brand new and he really got everybody in that stadium together. And then I saw him at a tiny club in downtown LA with like 1,000 people at the end of last year. So I think it really depends on the person. But I think that's the only place they really make money is the stadiums, between the merch and the ticket prices, because they're not making money on records anymore. They're not making money on like this appearance or that appearance. And I think the stadiums, I think it's economics. They're in this as a business, wouldn't you say?
Oh, well, of course they are. And as we were saying, the efficiencies, it's a different thing. You can do 3 nights at an arena, right, or you can do 1 night at a stadium. Right. Now it's more expensive to mount a stadium show. It's bigger everything, but it's 1 night. You can get in and get out. So it's a different equation. But obviously, if you can sell that many tickets in 1 night as opposed to selling that many tickets over 3 or 4 nights, you will presumably walk away with more money. That's for sure. But but it depends on what experience you want to be giving and what you think serves the show right that you want to do.
But I think you said it perfectly the other day when you were talking about Mick Jagger, like has never met a dollar he didn't want to earn, right? So they're gonna. I mean, those guys are out there and who can blame them? I mean, like if they were doing it as a donation, that would be different. And also the other thing that I thought was important to note is that the stadiums in different cities, the cost is really different. I mean, I think the stadium in Oklahoma is going to be different than SoFi. SoFi is expensive. Even the cheap seats are expensive. And it's a pain in the ass to get to, Alan. It is the most giant pain in the ass to get to and get home.
No, there was something we were just looking at that was fascinating how not different the pricing was. And I can't remember what this was. Like, it's still, I mean, sure, people were gaming this out a lot for the Taylor tour and the Beyonce tour. It was cheaper to fly to Cincinnati and go to the show there and stay overnight than to buy the tickets in New Jersey.
Right, or LA. They were really expensive. So
we're going to, at some point on this podcast, we're going to have to get into tickets again. We talked about it years ago.
Always.
But we're going to have to get into that. And the reality, the band's participation in that situation, but not for today. Dina, thank you so much. Sean, let's jump to you.
So my background, if you guys didn't know, I have worked for architecture and engineering firms that design stadiums. And
wow.
And so from the
Can you make better acoustics then? Jesus.
Well, I think they are.
Not my department, but I can.
Not my department. Oh, I've heard that before.
But you asked the other day on the first show, you asked why are we seeing an uptick? And I think you're seeing an uptick for a couple of reasons. One, stadium design, the trend in stadium design and ballpark design is to get smaller, not bigger. You don't see the 80 to 90,000 seat anymore. If you look at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, it's 67,000. SoFi is not as that big either. So the venues are getting a little smaller. Secondly, are you familiar with what's called TIF money? Tax increment funding, basically where a city sells its soul by throwing a 5/8 tax for 40 years. Well, the owner still has to put in $300 or $400 million. Well, they want that money back, and they want that money back faster. And what they're finding is concessions and parking isn't getting the money back faster. So I believe that the owners of the stadiums and the ballparks are more willing to allow a smaller font act to get involved in a ballpark because they can make their money back faster.
I never even thought about that.
They want fewer nights that it's sitting empty.
Exactly.
That sounds absolutely right as I think about seeing Cincinnati, where I'm from. They didn't used to bring shows into Riverfront Stadium. Even the early years of Great American Ballpark, they did not, but they have started to do more. And again, this ties into all of it, which comes first and which drives the other. But it absolutely, what you're saying makes sense, that they're not making money if it's sitting empty. So, however more aggressively they can pursue at the promoter level, getting more use out of the space, why the hell wouldn't they?
Sean, a really, really fascinating point. I don't think any of us really ever considered that our ticket price was going to pay the rent or the mortgage on that venue.
Here in Kansas City, as an example, we have the T-Mobile Center, which holds 18.5. Kauffman Stadium holds 37, and Arrowhead holds about 80. But there was nothing at Kauffman Stadium for, 20 years, 25 years. And all of a sudden they started, things like the I Heart the 90s tour. I mean, I'm not going to go normally to see Color Me Bad and Vanilla Ice in a stadium.
But somebody is.
That's the point. Somebody is. And if the owners can fill a stadium up with 4 or 5 extra concerts a year, that's parking, concessions, they're part of the merch, they're part of the tickets, and they can make that money back faster.
Sean, I love it. We're up against it for time. So speaking of Southern Ohio, let's get Jim in here before we take off.
Jim, welcome to the show, Jim. That's you, Jim. Put the cigarette down and let's chat.
Who says it was a cigarette? But anyway,
yes.
As a guy that spent 10 years from 85 to 95 following the Grateful Dead up and down the East Coast, many stadium shows.
Yep.
But my first show was Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA, my first stadium show. 80s was all about stadium tours. You remember there was the Monsters of Rock tour. That was a big, huge seller.
Sure.
The Victory Tour.
Yeah, I saw that tour. I saw the Rolling Stones on the steel wheels, I believe it was, with Living Colour and Guns N' Roses. Which was incredible.
Oh, before Guns got kicked off. It was
one
only
of the
a few
last
shows.
dates. It was one of the last dates. I love stadium shows. Let's not forget that. Well, but it depends. Like U2. Something U2's done for their stadium tours over the last few years is the tickets for the floor are usually $75. It's the seats that cost $125, $250, going up. So people that are way up in the bleachers, way up in the top, might have paid $300 for their ticket, and I'm down on the floor 15 feet from the band, and I paid $75.
Look, they also want to play to fans in front. I mean, the complaint that you hear is people saying, we get people who will spend these thousands of dollars. We're playing to like hedge fund guys in suits who won't stand up in the first couple of rows, and it can kind of be a drag for the band. I don't think you get to take the money and complain about it. But sometimes, like what you're saying, is they want fans down front. It makes for a more exciting performance off the stage.
And to get back to Sean's point, Fenway Park was one of the first baseball parks in the last 20 years. And the reason why they brought the bands in was because they said, you want us to be winners? You want us to be champions? We need people to come in here and play so we can spend the money on players to come and hang out with you. But I will say this. I've been to many of festivals, and I've been in a crowd in a festival. Like I saw Pearl Jam Bonnaroo 2008, and there was 100,000 people there. So what's the difference? You know, if you're gonna go to a festival, you know, and there's a chance that could happen. My only complaint is it depends on the weather. And what I mean by that is if you're looking at the stage and the wind is coming from behind you, that sound is going back that way, away from you. If the changes with the wind, you know how the sound is. The Dead they were made for that. They had the sound equipment for that. They had that. And when you go see the Dead, it wasn't necessarily about seeing them. It was just about hearing them.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, as in so many things, the Dead were pioneers. They built the wall of, you know, the wall of sound for the stage.
Yeah.
You could, you know, and it was about, you know, the going to Dead show is not about sitting in your seat. You know, it's about dancing. It's about the parking lot. It's about meeting up with people. It's about that's, you know, a destination that's not just obviously you're not. They do the lights and projections and whatever it is, but it's not really about we got to see the band.
Right. And the cool thing, you got to remember, the Grateful Dead started at because if you know, they had the largest crowd in the history for a single concert in New York in 1972. Watkins Glen. They had 450,000 people there. So they learned from that to move forward. It just depends on the bands. I agree. I think that a lot of these bands that are playing stadiums don't deserve to play stadiums, and I won't go see them. I won't. I'd rather see them at, you know, I mean, Alan, you know, we used to have Hara Arena here in Dayton. And
saw some great shows.
And I actually saw, you know, I love music, and I want to be able to hear it. I don't necessarily need to see the bands. I don't necessarily see that. I just want to hear the music. And a lot of times at stadiums, that is the worst thing, is the sound.
Right.
The price of merch is okay. You know it should be expected, blah, 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 blah. You know what you're getting when you go in. You bought the ticket, so you shouldn't be bitching about the merch because you know how much you bought it. You know what it was to get there. You know what it's going to be. So stadiums, if it's worth going to it, you should go. It's an experience that everybody should experience at least once in their lives. Other than that, yeah, I love you guys. Welcome back.
We vote with our wallets on all of this stuff. You decide what is worth it to you and what is not. You decide what's too expensive and what is not. Right now, as we're seeing, people are ready to fork out the money to go to more of these shows. That's what the market is indicating. So
we weren't able to get to everybody. We have a bigger audience than we were able to get to today, which we're thrilled about. Our old friend Joel's 2 places you won't find me, a stadium show and a festival. And then Sunita chimes in, Joel, you just need to go with the right people and see the right people. Well, that's true.
Stay in touch with us. Connect at sounduppod.com. Any further thoughts on what we were talking about today? And as we mentioned, next week, because we're now really getting the full sense of the festival season, we're going to be talking about festivals in our first show and then talking about festivals with all of you guys in our second show next week, barring any crazy news happening.
We've got Lindsay Havens joining us to break down what is happening in festivals. And I guess by then there may be 1 or 2 more announced.
They're coming every day right now, but we've got the big ones are all in place. So Lindsay from Billboard is going to talk about what these lineups look like. I'm going to just say this and then we'll see what it is. I feel like a lot of the energy is moving off of festivals right now. These festivals feel very similar, feel very formula, and people, it's a different audience, but with everything that's happening with the Vegas residencies, with things that are happening around some of the packages for some of these stadium tours, I feel like there's a transition that's happening on the festival side that I want to hear what Lindsay has to say, looking at the business of festivals. So that's where we'll start next week.
I'll be interested to break it down. Is in terms of, you know, value per dollar, is a festival better than a stadium show? You know, it costs a lot of money for both. Which one makes more sense? We're going to wrap it up here. This is the second show. We've got a lot more shows to do, and with your help, we're going to continue to do these. It's been really weird and wonderful to actually have you people here with us live. Really, I can't say enough for all of us. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for coming out. Spread the word. Sound Up. SoundUpPod.com is the site. You can go there. Connect at SoundUpPod is the place to go.
Tell your friends. Hit that 5-star rating. Do all that stuff to help us plant the flag in the sand here and keep this thing going.
And I'll say one more thing before we wrap it up. Also, I would love to hear from everyone. I know that there's a lot of people now who have listened to Alan and I together before, on Sirius. But I know we've got some new people, and I want to hear the kind of stuff that you'd like to hear us cover. What do you want to talk about with us? What kinds of challenges are you having out there in the music world, whatever they might be? Love to get into stuff that normally we wouldn't have the chance to do on radio. So let's get into that here on the podcast. Thanks to everyone who joined us here and to you for listening at home. We really appreciate it. We will catch you for Sound Up show number 3 next week.
Sound Up is hosted by Mark Goodman and Alan Light, produced by Roger Coletti, distributed by Revolver Podcasts. Get Sound Up on Pandora Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. To be a part of the show, email us at connect@sounduppod.com. Sound Up theme music is by Smile from Tokyo. We'll see you next time right here on Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light.